Hi teachers, the purpose of this video is to do an overview of day 5 of week 2 of the unit Engaging with Our Community. The idea is that we're going to go through each moment of the lesson and discuss some of the ways that you can make it the most comprehensible and engaging for your specific group of students, with some suggestions for scaffolds and supports. So let's start going through the different slides. On the first slide, you're going to find the introduction to the lesson. You can review with students the essential question and remind them that it's the same essential question that we've had all week. And then maybe here give them, if you'd like, a brief introduction description of the project for today, which is to write a persuasive letter or email to a politician or local politician, or a local political figure explaining an issue of concern in their neighborhood based on what they've studied from their community health profiles. And then here below, you can speak with students through the lesson objectives. You can have students read it out loud if you like that routine, and explain any of the objectives that you think need further clarification. On the next page, you're going to find the review of what we learned this week. So again, you have your list here of the lesson objectives from earlier. You can go through these with students and again, further explain anything that might be confusing or that you think you want students to focus in on. You also have below your links to the different texts. If you want to remind students, you could click on some of the links and open the documents as a quick refresher of what resources they used earlier. And then you have, of course, your academic vocabulary linked to websites with further explanations. On the next slide will be the activation activity, which is reminding students what they did earlier in the week. So the idea is students will kind of look at these images, which are snapshots from earlier lessons, and then kind of reflect on what they see, remember, and wonder. So it's a variation on the see, think, and wonder exercise. So hopefully at this point, students are pretty familiar with this routine. And as usual, there's this sentence starter box for students if they would like some extra support expressing the ideas of what they see, what they remember, and what they are wondering. The idea here again is to pull out and activate what students already did so that they get primed for today's work. So a possible support here, which we might have seen in earlier lessons, is to do an example of the see, remember, and wonder. You can present this to students before they attempt independently, or you could do it afterwards as they're sharing their ideas. So for this modification, I just color-coded the sentence starters to make it more visually clear and completed each one with a full idea. Again, getting that example and model for them. So here it was, for the first one, in the images I see. And then for the example, I completed it by saying, in the images, I see our activities from the week. So again, this is just something you can present to students before they begin this independently for them to get a better picture of what they could do. The next part is going to be the model. This is providing students another model exemplar, but for the final project, a kind of a way for them to visualize what exactly they're going to be creating today. The idea here is there is an image, which is a snapshot from the community health profile, full of statistics and information, data, whatever term you're using to, whatever phrase you're using for that. And you can see there is a connection between what we see in the community health profile and this example of a personal statement or persuasive letter. So you could read this letter out loud to students and point out the moments where the author is identifying the issue and explaining why exactly that issue is important. So again, this is giving students just an idea of what they're working towards, helping them kind of envision what they're aiming for. The next slide is going to be the scaffold for the project, where students start to apply this independently. On the left, you'll see an example, a completed example of the scaffold, the organizer. The idea is that students in the center identify the important issue, and then in these outside circles of the organizer, they start to kind of add some reasons, some specific reasons about why this issue is so important to them. So you have here the completed version, and then on this side you have a organizer that can actually be typed into. So you could use this to model for them, right? So might say the issue would be pedestrian injury, and just show them how they would type into that to complete the organizer. And it's important here to note that they only really need to state one reason. I believe this is in the tips for teachers. Yes, so here in the notes for teachers, they don't have to come up with 4 reasons, but they should have at least one reason to start to write their persuasive paragraph. So just important thing to point out to students, the 4 reasons is if they are overflowing with ideas, they should aim for at least one. And something that might be helpful in terms of logistics is creating multiple copies of this slide, and students can have each have their own slide to manipulate and type into. So that is for the scaffold. So on the next slide, you're going to see the final project or problem statement. As you can see, it is some formulaic expressions and sentences with students having the opportunity to fill in those blanks with the information to personalize this. So you could have students do this work on this slide. Another way of organizing this is to use a Google Doc or a Google Slide and linking to the previous work from the week. That way, as students begin to think about their reasons here on the scaffold and then into the problem statement, they can easily go back to the work that they've done before. So for example, if you want to link to day 1, if you have that assignment in a Google Classroom, you could copy the link here, link it like this, and then students can click that. It takes them right to their assignment. They can open it and see the information that they had from before or any writing that they did, a way for them to easily kind of go back and see what they've already done. Down here is an idea of what for day 5, how you could structure it if you want to use kind of one Google Doc to keep everything together. So as you can see, day 5, it has on the left the exemplar that was from the model slide. So that's just copied and pasted from slide 5 here in this text box. And then on the right is the frame for the problem statement, the letter. Again, just copied and pasted from slide 7 here. So students could use this document if you like the idea of having everything in one place for them from the entire week. Another possible version of this is the same idea, having everything linked in one place. Again, the exemplar on the left, but the difference here is that students would be provided maybe a checklist of what information they should include, and then they can kind of, with their original language, write out the full sentences and the phrases and the language structures to communicate that. So this one is slightly more independent than this first version, where these sentences framed out for them. So if you have students who are gaining more independence, you could give them this checklist as an alternative. So these are just some of the tips for how to scaffold and differentiate throughout this lesson. Please do not forget on slide 8 to use this QR code and provide some feedback for the design team. Thanks so much and good luck with day 5.